Are you ready to take a trip down the rabbit hole? Over the past century, there have been more than 20 versions made of Alice in Wonderland, but none quite like this one. Tim Burton, Johnny Depp and Disney have added a whole new 3D chapter to this Lewis Carroll classic. This time, it's an entirely different story, an entirely different Alice, and it's a whole lot more surreal. Hardly surprising, though, from the king of oddball cinema. Let's go meet him.
There is a place like no place on earth. Some say to survive it, you need to be as mad as a hatter, which luckily, I am.
Now, your films always seem to be somewhere in between dreams and reality. Why is that?
Well, because that's the way I think things really are. You know, it's like people always are trying to say, well, fantasy's this and reality's that. And, you know, I know for myself, I always used my fantasy life to help me with real issues. I think that's what, you know, like stories like Lewis Carroll created or myths or fairy tales, they sort of have that purpose. So to me, it's not, they're not exclusive, they're intertwined.
A pinch of worm fat. Urine of the horsefly. Oh, buttered fingers.
What attracted you to do this film, Alice in Wonderland?
Well, I think it was an opportunity. You know, those characters that he created were just, they're so in the culture, you know, they're so in, you know, I knew probably more about them from listening to music or, you know, songs or other illustrators doing it or writers incorporating into the work. So it's really in the culture. And I think it was that and then the opportunity to do those characters in 3D, which it just seemed like the material and the medium was a good mixture.
Which is your favourite character in the story?
Well, when I started thinking about that, I got very happy because I felt like, well, I started thinking, well, is it the Mad Hatter, or is it the Cheshire Cat, or the March Hare, or the Rat? I mean, there's so many great characters that, you know, they all have their own particular craziness. So I sort of identify with most of them, really.
Someone has stolen 3 of my tarts! Did you steal them?
No, Your Majesty.
Did you?
No, Your Majesty.
Did you steal them?
No, Your Majesty.
Did you steal my tarts?
No, Your Majesty.
Squimberry juice.
I was so hungry! I didn't mean
Off with his
to!
head!
Now, all your characters have something in common, as sort of tortured, they're sort of tortured souls, aren't they? Did you see Alice like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think she, you know, she's like, again, I don't think it's exclusive to girls or boys. I mean, I had those kind of feelings, and I think a lot of people do at certain times in your life where you don't feel like you fit into things, or you're either too young, or you're too old, or you're not, you don't, you know, and you're kind of quiet and have sort of an internal life, and I think that's something I related to, and is, you know, why, even though she's a girl, I could really easily relate to her.
This version is sort of a coming-of-age story for Alice, isn't it? She's slightly older. Why did you like that angle?
Well, it was basically because I think there have been like 20-some versions, and it was always the kind of obnoxious little girl and just kind of wandering around a bunch of weirdos, and it just felt like it was a good way to explore those characters, but also explore what Lewis Carroll at least did for me, which is, you know, exploring your fantasy life, exploring your dreams in terms of helping you with real-life issues.
Have you any idea why a raven is like a writing desk?
And you tend to use the same actors again and again. It's the 7th time you've worked with Johnny Depp. Can you explain the special alchemy you've got together?
You know, I think it's because we don't really think about it in the terms of like, well, you know, just each time feels like it's the first time in a way, and it just kind of like, I think the biggest issue is just because each time you just want to keep that creative edge and not get complacent and, you know, try new characters and stuff. So he's really good at that, and so just, you know, it's just always fun to see what new kind of weird character he's next time.
It's you.
No, it's not. McTwist brought us the wrong Alice.
It's the wrong Alice.
You're absolutely Alice. I'd know you anywhere. I'd know him anywhere. Well, as you can see, we're still having tea. And it's all because I was obliged to kill time waiting for your return. You're terribly late, you know. Naughty.
Time can be funny in dreams.
Yes, of course. But now you're back, you see. And we need to get on to the Frabjous Day.
Frabjous Day!
I'm investigating things that begin with the letter M.
So did you feel a little bit nervous then, using a relatively unknown actress to play Alice?
No, because I kind of liked that in a way. I hadn't really seen much of her, so she felt really new, and she kind of fit into that quality. I think it helped in the sense that if it had been like some well-known actress, that idea of not quite fitting in and not quite being a part of the real world would have been harder. And I think Mia just had that sort of quality of kind of a young person with an old soul, and just a gravity to her that I felt was just really, it just was what the character needed.
And what is your first 3D film? What was that like?
Well, it's exciting. I mean, that's why I felt like it was like really, you know, the sort of the trippiness of Wonderland. It was just another tool to kind of get you in there, and kind of, there's such a weird thing with Wonderland about the size differences and the space and sort of being off kilter, that I think the 3D just was sort of another character that way.
Now, you have got a reputation for being wacky and a bit weird. Is that something that's true, or is it something that the media have hyped up because of the films that you choose?
I think it's more the latter there, because I think if I don't know, I think if you'd ask most of my friends, they wouldn't say I'm that weird. Although you'd have to ask them. But no, I think you get labeled, you know, or you get labeled when you're a child, you know, and sometimes it never leaves you. You know, it sort of happened, I think, and it happened when I can first remember, and then it just never leaves. And so it used to bother me, like when I was a teenager and things, because it just made me feel worse. But then as I got older, it just didn't, you know, get used to it.
Now, you are heading to Cannes in May to head the jury. What can we expect from that? Can we expect fantastical films to do extra well?
No, I don't. You know, I've been in like a dark hole for the last 2 years, so I haven't really seen any movies. So I'm quite excited to kind of get back and kind of reconnect with movies, and that's, you know, what I love. So I think for me, I just no expectations and just kind of be open and you know, be surprised. I think it's like if you have an idea going in, then you won't be as surprised. And it's just nice to just see what affects you and see what emotionally connects with you. And you know, I think that the key is to just be open.
Is it something you've always wanted to do?
Well, I've been there, but it's a real honor. There's something about the Cannes Film Festival that's a bit like Wonderland for film. You know, there's something incredibly surreal and beautiful and amazing about it that I feel quite excited about.
Okay. Tim Burton, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
I need a pig here. I love a warm pig belly for my aching feet. Stop that.
Thanks for joining me here at the Ritz, where we've had the pleasure of meeting the legendary Tim Burton. Join me again tomorrow for more arts and entertainment from around the world.